what came out of the budget, or rather what did not come out of the budget and disappointed the industry. Now, two issues. There was no specific mention on tax cuts for SEZs in this budget, and there was no word on the scrapping of the minimum alternate tax, and that came as a bit of a disappointment to some of the industry participants. Let's get two gentlemen to discuss this issue. Arun Nanda, Chairman of Mahindra Lifespace, and Mr. DP Sengupta, the former Joint Secretary of the CBDT, join us now to talk about that. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you to both of you for joining us on the show. Mr. Nanda, I want to first start off with you. The Finance Minister spoke about reviving SEZ schemes, but there was no specific mention about any tax stops that could be given to SEZs, perhaps because it would sort of strain the fiscal situation. What's your view on how much of a negative this could be, the fact that there was no scrapping of minimum alternate tax and also no specific mention of any tax stops for SEZs?
First of all, I disagree with you on the fiscal part of it, because I think people look at vertical separately. But let me come back to the main issue. The whole concept of SEZ was supposed to be that these were supposed to give certain incentives to people to come and set up factories and become globally competitive. It was not only incentive, it was also to make them globally competitive. But somewhere down the line, in the previous government, the Finance Ministry and Commerce Ministry had divergent views, and we were slapped with something MAT. Now, MAT, the whole concept of MAT is that when you pay tax in a future year, it gets set off. But if in an SEZ there is no basic tax and you still impose MAT, that means it goes from your pocket. Now, both Mr. Modi in his earlier statements and the Finance Minister talked about boosting exports. But it was very disappointing to know that neither was the MAT removed, nor any mention made of things like DDT or other fiscal benefits or streamlining of policies. You know, they made so many policy announcements. There are other pains, and I'll come back later in the show on that. But it is very disappointing. But let me clear the perception of the fiscal benefit. We've had this argument with the previous Finance Minister that you're only looking at tax not being paid by the entity, but the employees who work there, the products that are sold, the tax that you collect from the social infrastructure that happens, because the young men and women who work there, who go and buy goods, they pay the VAT and things like that there. So there is a snowballing effect, and this is, you have to look at it from an employment generation and the kickstart that it gives to the economy. Don't look at it only in one bucket that this company is not paying tax.
This point just has to get rebutted, and not too many people are rebutting it. So, Mr. Sengupta, your point always was that there is no right to do business without paying any taxes. Would you say that, there is a take that comes to the economy because of businesses in SEZ, and therefore tax can be excused? You don't buy that argument?
I don't buy that argument at all. First of all, there is no. Okay, let me first of all say that I am basically against all tax exemptions, not only relating to SEZ, but relating to all tax exemptions, for the simple reason that they distort the tax system and spawn huge litigations. And there are any number of studies done in India and abroad which show that these tax stops are ultimately not benefiting anyone. And secondly, the fact remains that there is a huge tax base erosion because of these tax expenditure. Insofar as the SEZ tax stops are concerned, in respect of corporates alone, for the financial year 2013-14, the tax revenue foregone statement shows something to the tune of about 15,000 crores of rupees. So when the whole world is now talking in terms of preventing base erosion through the OECD and G20 BEPS project, we cannot go on creating some enclaves of tax havens within India itself.
Okay, Mr. Sengupta, that point actually, I'm sorry, I should perhaps not have started this discussion since anyway the Karnataka High Court settled it for us. But Mr. Nanda, nevertheless, we had the Commerce Secretary saying yesterday that they are looking at preparing a revival package for SEZs. So let's look forward, since the tax issue has been to some extent discussed by the Karnataka High Court or settled by it. What would you want in terms of helping SEZs? Since the government is not in doesn't have the elbow room for taxes, what do you want other than taxes?
No, are you asking me or Mr. Sengupta?
Yes, you, Mr. Nanda.
No, but I want to correct one perception because I think the viewers should get the perception. It is not a question of whether you pay tax or you don't pay tax. I would like to, with due respect to Mr. Sengupta, ask him, does he believe in growth? Because if you don't give benefits, the Nokias and the Flexitronics of this world do not set up shop here. They go and set it up at some other place. It's not a question of do you get tax or you don't get tax. Now, if you have to make a level playing field, because there are other economies and they have options to go somewhere else. So, either we say that we will take tax, but we don't care about growth, then it's fine. That's all right. We can have revolution on the streets and not create 200 million jobs.
No, Mr. Nanda, that point is taken. Now, just to go forward, since the Commerce Secretary has said that they're looking at revival packages, what would you have included in that package?
There are three things that I would like to look at in the revival package. The first is, I think we should, the whole policy was set up that there will be no taxation on the basis of which people made the investment. Whatever you want to do prospective, when certain promises were made, they should be kept there. The second is that there is a misconception that whatever we do should be only limited to what is called processing area. A processing area will not survive without the non-processing area. You need to have the infrastructure to support. You need the logistic hubs. You need the social infrastructure for people to come and study, educate, stay. All those things will have to be looked at. And third is, I think there should be a very clear policy, because the Development Commissioner says the service tax should not be available, but the Service Tax Authority says service tax should be applicable. So I think that there should be a very clear understanding between center and state governments or between various departments of the government, because the developer needs to know what is there and what is not there, especially for our clients who come and set up shop. They should know and what economics they are going to be working in.
Okay. Mr. Sengupta, I just wanted to take that question to you as well in a different way. Do you think this whole process of revival of SEZs or this revival scheme is really futile? Because unless you don't give tax exemptions, unless you don't give land relaxation in regulations and clearances, there is actually no revival process underway.
Well, whether we should have, as I said, whether we should have these enclaves of tax havens within India or not is a policy decision for the government to take. I am not questioning that. Now, assuming that we have, then what is necessary is for them to have proper infrastructure. There are a number of studies which say that tax off is not the deciding factor for companies or for investments to come in particular area. These are proper infrastructure, availability of electricity, the red tape, etc., which Mr. Nanda has alluded to. Those I have no issues with that, but tax offs is something which is a concern for the revenue for the reasons that I have already mentioned. If assuming that the companies need, after all, revenue foregone is also a subsidy. And when we talk of subsidy in other sectors, we keep on harping on the subsidy not being targeted and being very non-transparent. And this is also a very non-transparent subsidy.
Okay, well, in any case, sir, that point now has been settled to some extent by the courts and to some extent by the lack of fiscal space. So at least the tax discussion is not coming, which is why we wanted to ask you what are the non-tax benefits that can come. But out of time, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us with your views. We'll have to wait and see what the Commerce Ministry has in its mind, since Finance has clearly said that there is no elbow room with tax giveaways.